In this video, we're going to model the rest of the sword in stone scene. Okay, so first of all, I'll hit Shift C and I will add an icosphere. This is going to represent the stone that my sword is inside. I'll move it on the Z axis a little. And then maybe I will add a cube. And then I will move this down. Tab into edit mode, scale on the Z. And I'm going to have this kind of be a platform for this to be on with stairs going down from it. So I'll duplicate this and maybe make it a little bigger. And then duplicate it again. Separate that. I think I want to have each of these separated into different meshes so that when I sculpt them, that they won't get in the way of each other. Now I might rotate on the Z axis a little with these. Maybe something like that. And then I might duplicate it again. And then scale this way down. And then scale on the X. And this might end up being more of a smaller step. I'll duplicate this. And then once more. And then maybe this one I'll scale down a little bit more just to give a little bit of variation. And now we got these blocked out. So what I will do is I'll go into Sculpting with the main stone selected. And well, I guess I can go and name this stone. And now I can start to sculpt this. So I'm going to use my grab brush to start. And I'll need to turn off symmetry. And I'm just going to start to kind of block out a shape. And maybe make it a little bit bigger than I might want it to be, so that I can scrape away at it and still have something left. And maybe bring that down a little. Try to flatten out the bottom of this some more. That looks kind of cool. Now I might go back and start working with the sword. I'm just going to go and apply all my modifiers, and then I can go ahead and join each of these as one object. Control J, and I'll call it sword. Now you might have noticed that if I have a modifier here, I have this apply all option. Well, that's just in the preferences. I turn on an add-on called modifier tools. So now I think the sword wouldn't be perfectly straight up. So I might just hit RR and try to rotate it. Rotate on Z. Something like this. Something like that might be cool. And then I can go back to the stone. I'll save. Make sure to save often. I'm going to turn on Dyne Topo for dynamic topology so that it will automatically change the topology to work with the shape I'm sculpting. So I can go to scrape tool and I can start scraping out some flatter shapes in the stone. A little bit on the top. Maybe one here. And then what I can do is I can shrink this down, maybe smooth out the center parts. What I can also do is go grab the crease brush, and while this makes creases like this, normally if I hold control, it will add kind of the opposite of a crease, and I can put on the edges to make a more sharp edge. And then I can maybe even go on the pinch brush which will shrink these to make them even sharper. And maybe I'll smooth out a little bit of these kind of really big points. I don't think there'd be any points like that. I think it would mostly get eroded away. So now we got our main rock shape. And I just realized that the sword is kind of rotated a little bit too far that way, I think. So I'm just going to hit R. I think that looks better. Maybe move it a little closer to the front. Maybe have it be a little bit more straight. And then I can go into these shapes and do the same thing to make more stones. So I can go back to the scrape tool and start scraping. Turn on topo and then start scraping some edges. Maybe making it a little smaller. Maybe I will take an entire section off here, off the edge. And then I can go to my crease brush, hold control, make a nice sharper edge. And then, of course, go to the pinch brush and make it smaller and sharper some more. Now maybe I could go to a clay strips brush or something and just add some small variation in height. Like that. To the top of the surface. And then I'll go into this one. Go to scrape. Turn on topo. I use Control D. Scrape off the edges a little, real quick. And then I can go to crease, hold control, sharpen it up. Sharpen up here, hold pinch, shrink. And then maybe go to clay strips again and add a little surface variation at the top. Then I'll go to this one and do the same process. Turn down topo, scrape. And then I'll go to the crease, hold control. Make some nice sharp edges. Pinch. Clay strips. And then I can go ahead and tackle it with these little small guys for the little smaller steps. Make it smaller, scrape. And then go to crease, hold control, pinch. Maybe add a little bit of a clay strip to the surface again. So now what I can do is I can maybe combine each of these into one set of steps or platform. I'll call it platform. And then I'll go back to the stone. Maybe I'll go to crease, turn on down topo, and then I'll reduce the size to maybe like 3 or something. Then I can go and add some cracks to it without holding control. Just some small little cracks to add some little something to the surface. And then of course I can go and do some small little cracks to here as well. Just a little to make some stronger ones. And now we have our platform and our stone. So now we can go and save, and then Shift A and add a plane. Have two, call it ground. Then move it down to the bottom, scale it up real big. I can move it over a bit closer to this side being at the front, since I'm not going to model this. I'm going to show it from there from the camera. Make sure that I have enough space going farther back. Maybe scale that up since the camera will go farther that way. I don't have to worry about going super far because I think the fog should probably make it so that I can't see that far. I can go and hit all and hit GZ. Move this a little closer so that it's flush with the surface. And then I can go into sculpting, turn on Dime Topo, crease it. I don't need the size to be this high. I'll bring it back up to maybe 12. Probably don't even need 12, maybe even 20 or something. I'll go to clay strips and just add a little surface variation with holding with little strokes. Can even hold control to make certain spots go down. Maybe make that go down a little. Now that has a little bit of a shape to it. Next, of course, we can go and add some trees. So I'm just going to hit Shift A, add a cylinder. Now these trees here are going to be quite tall, so I don't think I need to even worry about having leaves on them, since we're going to be like seeing here. So you won't see any leaves. I don't even need it to be that tall. So I can just have it like that. And then grab that bottom edge. I can delete the bottom edge since I won't see the bottom. Then I can add a loop here. Select here, scale it out. Maybe scale that in a little so that we got kind of a root thing going. Maybe add some more loops here. Then I can hit select all. I can hit Control A and apply the scale so that when I hit F3 and search for random, transform randomize, I can just add a little bit of a randomness to it to give it a little bit of a shape. And then I can maybe hit shade smooth or something. And this can represent our tree. Then maybe I can go to the top view and hit Alt D and start moving these guys around. You're going to want quite a bunch of trees since we are in a forest. Maybe go all the way over there. That should probably be enough. Now we can go and select a few of these. Turn on individual origins. And maybe hit scale and then Shift Z so that it doesn't scale on the Z. And make some of these a little fatter. Maybe a little bit, select some more. Make some of them a little skinnier. And then we can go select some and hit RZ to rotate them on the Z axis so they don't all have the same rotation. Then maybe I can even give them some tilt. I think it'd be cool to give it a little bit of a tilt going inside, kind of framing it and kind of making it look a little bit more of a spooky, scary place. If we have like some that are kind of not really quite stable looking. Can save again. Now we're going to need to have some smaller details such as bushes and maybe some grass and maybe some small stones around. So how can we add some small stones? Well, we can go to this and we can go ahead and add here a particle system. We'll call it stones. And we can just use the same model that we used here. So we go to hair, render as an object, select our stone. And now you see we have a bunch of stones all over the place. So we're going to go to advanced so we can adjust their rotation so that they all, look different. So I can select rotation. And then I can hit randomize. and then do something like global X so that they're all randomized in different rotations rather than velocity, which will keep it the same even with random turned on. And then with scale, we can make it a little bit bigger. We don't want them too big, and we can add some randomness to the scale. And now we can maybe make there less, maybe like 500 would be good. Now what might be cool is if we were to select our platform surface and then shift select this, and then hit Control L, make links, and choose modifiers, which we can see the added stones to this. So we can go back to here, and we can hit this 2, which will make it its own separate data. So duplicate the data and use the duplicated version. And then we can change the number so that we don't have a bajillion. We just have some stones on it. Maybe like that. And I can change the seed until I find one that looks decent. And maybe something like that. And I think maybe I'd want them to be smaller on this one. So now we got more stones in our scene. So maybe we want some grass. So let's go and hit Shift A, add plane. And we'll create a grass on this plane, but we'll Shift D, and this will be a blade of grass. Now I can take this plane here and tab into edit mode, scale it down, rotate it on the X axis or Y axis or whatever, and scale on the Z. Maybe scale on the X a little bit more to make it smaller. Then I can hit Control R to add a loop here, move it to give a bit of a bend to our grass, and then I can hit Control B to bevel it. Then I can select this, and then maybe I can turn proportional editing on and scale on the x-axis. As you can see, it gets smaller as it goes away. So now we got a blade of grass here, so I can maybe scale this down a little and apply that scale. And then I can add its own particle system, change that to hair, of course, turn on advanced so I can mess with the rotation. But I'm going to go to object and choose this thing, which I shall call grass beforehand. Take the grass, and then I can go to the rotation, choose global X, and as you can see, it's going from the middle. So I can go to here and G on Z to move it up to the top to that little orange dot where the origin is. Maybe I want to make a material on this before I do this so that I won't have to worry about setting that up later. I'll call it grass, and then I can edit it later. And then what I can do is I can go to randomize on the rotation a bit. I can have less grass here. I don't need this many. And what I can do is I can also work with the scale, make it bigger. Then obviously adding randomness to the scale. And maybe if I scale this down, and then I don't need this many. Maybe something like that would look nice. So what I need to do is go to the modifier tab here, and I have this convert button. And this will convert the particle system into actual blades of grass here. So each of these is their own mesh. And I'll shift select that to remove it, and then shift select this one time instead of 2 so that it becomes deactive, and I'll hit Control J. So now this is all joined. And I kind of messed up these because it had linked data, but I won't worry about that. So now we got this grass model here. And now what I can do with this grass, of course, is I can go back to this and then go back to the particles system tab. And then I can go ahead and add a new one, which will be hair again. And then change it from path to object. Choose our grass here. As you can see that it's tiny and not in the right rotation, so I'll start by scaling it up. And then I can go ahead and click advance to add rotation option, choose a rotation, and then do global X. And then for the scale, I'll bring it down, and then add some randomness to it. And then I'll add some randomness to the rotation. So now we got some grass, but we want maybe less grass than this. And we could save again. What we can do is we can go into this, into weight paint. And what we can do is add a vertex group called grass. And we can choose where we want grass to be. So I can paint areas where I would like to have the grass grow. Maybe some here. Maybe I'll go hit N and use the tool settings here to change it to 0 weight so that I can remove this where this tree is. Basically, wherever we have it set to 1, we will have grass grow. And wherever we have it set to 0 or blue, we won't have grass grow. Maybe some here. Okay, and then we can go back to object mode. And what we can do is go back to our particle settings. And under vertex groups, we can choose that grass as our density. And maybe we don't want that much of these, so I can lower it some, maybe like that. Save. And now maybe we could use some bushes. So what I'm going to do is go to edit preferences, and then in add-ons, I'm going to search for tree. There's add curves, sapling, tree gen, which can generate trees for us. We'll enable that, and then we will hit Shift C to center. I can hit Shift A, curve, sampling tree gen. And then I can start by trying to make it a bit shorter so that it'd be more like a bush. I can hit random seed, and this one is shorter. Then I can go to the branch splitting and maybe lower the amount of splits so that we have less. And then we can go to leaves, show leaves. And then I don't want this many, maybe I'll change it to like 25. Maybe that looks good to me for a bush. So I'll call this my bush, and I will select these and then move it somewhere. Move it here, maybe. And then maybe I'll go back to top view of pressing 7, hit Alt D. Important to hit Alt D so that when we mess with the materials that we won't have problems. And then I can just start moving some bushes around. And then obviously I can rotate them. And maybe I might want this one to be lower into the ground to make it look like a smaller or shorter. Maybe I'll scale this one up. Maybe I'll move this behind this tree. Maybe I'll move this one behind this tree. And now we have a forest that looks kind of alive. So we can save, and then we can work on the materials and the lighting in the next couple of videos. If you like this video, please like and subscribe so that you can see more of my Blender videos. Thanks for watching.